Corsetti with Atlanta Youth Lacrosse. In this video, I'll be showing all of our U9 players and parents how we set up the field for our U9 games and how a U9 game works with 7-on-7. So let's dig into how we set up the field for each of our games. Behind me is a diagram of a regulation lacrosse field. Regulation lacrosse field is 53 1/3 by 60 yards wide and 110 yards long. But we do not use a full field for our U9 division. Instead, we split the U9 division into thirds, and they play vertically up and down the field. Well, what does that look like? Let's dig into that. First, we got to get rid of the goals that are on the field. Let's get rid of those. Now, we have field A from the end line to the restraining line. We have field B from restraining line to restraining line, and we have field C from restraining line to end line. Okay, those are our field setups when we're down at the field. A, B, and C. Now, all the way down the middle of each field we line with cones. The midfield line for the field, which is just going to tell all the players where they're supposed to be, where they're not supposed to cross for the attackman and the defenseman. So once the midfield line is down across the entire length of the field, it's time to put in the goals. And we put those in the middle, and I can't show you here because I'd be going over my tape, but we go right on the wing lines, on the restraining lines, going up and down the field. Now this does two things. It gives us a goal line to put the goal on, and it also gives us space behind the goal for the players to work from X, which is a very valuable skill for the players to learn. So let's use field C as our example field. Now that we have the goals on the field, let's add our players for the red team. We're going to start with our goalie, who's going to defend the goal. We've got 2 defensemen, 2 midfielders, and 2 attackmen on the offensive side of the field. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 players on the field at any one time in the U9 division. Always play 7-on-7 on a shorter field. Kids get plenty of reps running up and down the field, but they don't get utterly exhausted. So, how does the game move? How does it progress? We now know what the field looks like, but we don't know how the game is supposed to flow. Well, let's dig into that a little bit. I'm going to erase this, and then we're going to come right back and delve into how the game is supposed to move. Every half is started with a face-off in our U9 games. Every half. So how does the face-off happen? How do we have to set the players up? Well, this is going to show you how we do that. So first we have 7 players again on each team, the red team and the blue team. The goalies are in their goals. The defensemen and the attackmen of both teams have their feet on the goal line, on goal line extended. The midfielders are on, we don't have wing lines, so we put them on each sideline of the field next to the midfield line. So 1 midfielder for the red team here, 1 midfielder for the blue team here, and the 2 players facing off in the center. So let's put a ball there. So, the officials are going to tell the players to go down, set, the official will blow his whistle, and the players will face off. Well, on the whistle, these 2 midfielders can run in and play the ball wherever the ball goes. If the ball goes one way or the other, let's say it goes over here, these 4 players will run and try to pick up the ball. Everybody else, the attackmen, the goalies, the defensemen on each team have to stay where they are. They cannot move until the official on the field winds his arm and calls possession. And all that means is that one of these midfielders has picked up the ball and has it in his stick. Now what this does is it prevents 14 players crashing onto the ball. Instead we just have 4 players crashing onto the ball. So we don't have so many bodies when the ball's on the ground initially. Helps to keep the game safe and clean. So a goal has been scored on one team or the other. What do we do? Well, in a regular game, on a full-size lacrosse field, we'd go ahead and we'd face the players off again, and then we'd move on with the game. For the U9, we found that constantly setting the players up for the face-off just eats into playing time considerably. So, what we do is have the goalies clear the ball every time that there is a shot. So, let's go ahead and say the blue midfielder scored on the red goalie. From there, the official will signal the goal, and the red goalie will fish the ball out of the net. He'll have it in his stick. Let's say he has a midfielder somewhere on the field, he's got his attackman, and he's got his defenseman. He can choose any of the players to throw the ball to, and he will make an outlet pass to, say, this defenseman. And now this defenseman has the ball and can move up the field. And we do that after every goal. Anytime the ball crosses the planes and a goal is scored and the referee puts his arms up, the goalie's going to take the ball out of the net and pass it off to one of his teammates. We find that this creates a lot of turnover, gets the kids a lot of touches on the ball, and it makes them completely forget about the fact that a goal was scored, and then they just go back on to playing. At the U9 level, a coach, singular, one coach, is allowed on the field for each team. So for the blue team, we have a coach. For the red team, we have a coach. Now, their job is to help tell the players where they're supposed to be at, what they're supposed to be doing, what they should be looking for, where they should be going. Their other job is to not get in the way of the play. So, if the ball moves from this side of the field over here, and we have a midfielder and a midfielder, and a midfielder and a midfielder, and this midi has the ball, this coach has to get out of the way, and he has to move. We don't want our kids having to dodge by our adult coaches. So, coaches, be aware if you're the coach on the field for that particular game. Make sure you're aware of what the play is going around you and that the kids aren't trying to dodge around you. We want them dodging against their peers and fellow teammates, not against our adult coaches. But again, one coach on the field at a time. The other coaches on the sidelines helping with substitutions and lines. So at the U9 level, we want to encourage players to pass the ball, to get used to passing the ball, moving to open space, looking for open teammates, listening for players calling, "Here's your help," or "one more." So what we do is require a 2-pass rule before every shot. So how does that work? Let's go ahead and take a look at that. So let's say we have a midfielder here, and an attackman here for blue. And this midfielder has the ball. What we require is 2 passes, but not 2 perfect, complete passes dead on the line to the player in front of them. No, we require 2 pass attempts. So, how does that work? Let's say this player passes the ball and this player catches it. Okay, that's awesome. I like it when U9 players catch a ball. The referee is going to put his hand in the air and say, "That's 1 pass, 1 pass. You have to get 1 more pass before you can shoot." So, player sees his buddy down here. He passes, but the pass is short, or it's long, or it hits the player's stick and it falls over and the ball falls on the ground, or it hits the body and the ball falls on the ground. Well, we're going to consider that an attempted pass. It was a pass that was in the general direction of his teammate. So this player, once he picks the ball up, and he has the ball, awesome. Referee puts 2 fingers in the air and says, "That's pass attempt number 2, you can go ahead and shoot." So this attackman will run around and shoot towards the goal. Very important that the 2-pass rule is enforced regularly, because it helps these players learn at a young age that you have to keep the field spread, and it also prevents, and although it happens quite often at the U9 level, but it prevents clumping. And what is clumping? Well, it's kind of how it sounds. you have the ball right here, and one player, one player, one player, one player, another player, another player, another player, another player, all circled around the ball. And even if somebody has the ball, they're still circled around them, clumped together, and they all move in this giant mass all the way across the field. And what the two-pass rule does is it forces players, after a couple weeks, they start realizing that they get more and more spread, and they get more and more wide, and they get more and more open. So that when there's a player with the ball, he'll be there, his midi will be here, his attackman will be here, and his other attackman will be there, and now they're in a nice box formation, and they can move the ball and attempt to move the ball. So that's what the two-pass rule helps us do at the U9 level, teaches the kids to stay spread and stay wide on offense. So what is offsides in the U9 game? Well, generally, these kids like to, like I said before, clump together and move all the way around the field. Well, one way that we try to teach them the game of lacrosse is to remain on sides if they are a defenseman, goalie, or attackman. Now remember, the midfielders can move anywhere on the field over this line. Let's go ahead and put them on this side for right now. So, there are two attackmen. There must always be two attackmen in the offensive zone, offensive end of the field for the red team. There are two defensemen and a goalie, so that means that there must be three players in the defensive end for the red team at all times. If at any point, let's go ahead and say that this defenseman goes over the line, this is considered offsides. When this happens, the referee will blow his whistle, signal offsides, and award the ball to the other team at the center of the midfield line. But how do we avoid this? Well, when the defenseman goes over, a midfielder must go back for him. Now we have 1, 2, 3 in the defensive end, and we still have our two attackmen in the offensive end, and now we have a midfielder and a defenseman who is essentially acting as a midfielder. But this midi is filling this defenseman's spot in the defensive end of the field. That's how you avoid offsides in the U9 game. So how are penalties enforced? Well, let's go ahead and say there's one midfielder here and one defenseman here. If it's a personal foul, as in a safety foul, we're going to adjudicate the penalty and ask the player to leave the field. But, unlike a regulation lacrosse game, where players play man up or man down, in the U9 level, no one ever plays man down. There's always 7 players on the field at all times for each team. So, midfielder, let's go ahead and say that the blue midfielder slashes the red defenseman. It happens. The referee will throw his flag, or signal flag down, and once the ball hits the turf, he'll blow his whistle, and will administer the foul. So he'll signal player in blue, let's say number 4, slash, he's out for a minute. So that player is going to walk to his sideline, take a knee on the sideline, and a new midfielder will come in for him. So coming in is going to be this new midfielder. And the player on the sideline just sits down for a minute, and it allows the coaches to explain to that player what that player did incorrectly, while the team is not playing man down. Well, thank you all for watching this video. I hope it has been informative, and I hope you all are looking forward to a great season with us at Atlanta Youth Lacrosse. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to email me at rules@ayllax.com. Thank you, and stay tuned for more videos.